morning. My name is Amy Ziegler, and I work for the MS Hershey Foundation, and we operate the Hershey Story Museum, Hershey Gardens, Hershey Community Archives, and Hershey Theater. And I'm Senior Director of the Museum, Gardens, and Archives. But since every part of the foundation is having kind of a major project or event happening this year, I'm going to kind of give you an update on all four of those, and as well as the movie that just filmed over the summer. So that was kind of what I was thinking of today. Since I'm moving between four very different organizations, feel free to yell if you have a question in the middle. We don't need to wait until the end. I don't want you to forget. So I'll start by talking about the Hershey movie. You're all aware that there was a Hershey movie that was filmed this summer, I'm assuming. So that started actually back in 2020 when we were approached by the Hershey Company, who had been working with the production team, and they really wanted to talk to us to make sure that the script was historically accurate, not just Hershey, but just history in general. Our crack archivists even told them they couldn't use a clipboard in one scene because it hadn't been invented for 2 years, so they were really, really on top of it. So beginning then, Hershey Community Archives archivists, the Hershey Story Senior Manager of Collections and Exhibitions, as well as myself, and Milton Hershey's Department of School History started reviewing the script. I think in total we did 8 or 9 different versions over the years, and I will say that they were incredibly open to our suggestions, and when I went back to look at sort of our notes back and forth, most of them said, agreed, yes, we'll make that change. So they were very open to having us participate in the process. It wasn't just, here's our script and you have to live with it kind of thing. And I do want to point out that I will be making my motion picture debut as a background actor. And I had on a big wig and a hat. So people that I had been seeing for days and days had no idea who I was when I walked up to them. So I'm trying to think of a prize for the first person who can correctly identify me in the film. So this scene was actually shot, and it was celebrating the 10th anniversary of Hershey in 1913. It was a huge parade, and it was a very big deal. So that was the day that I got to be a background actor, which was very hot, and I had on a lot of clothes, and it was something that I'm glad I did and really don't ever need to do again. So there we go. And I was there, but the school and the archives and the museum and somebody was on set for almost every day that they were shooting. So if they had questions, or we could kind of talk things out and offer feedback for them, which was really, really an incredible experience. As you can imagine, everyone has an idea of what they think Milton Hershey sounded like, what his relationship with Kitty was like. And while we have a ton of information in the form of photographs, and we know what happened with the Hershey Company and Milton Hershey School has records, we have one recording of his voice when he was in his 80s, which is not really emblematic of what he sounded like during his life. Cumulatively, all the video that we have of Milton Hershey is probably less than 30 seconds, and we have no video or recordings of Kitty's voice. And so while we have all of this information, we don't really have the things that make them human, the things that, what was their relationship like? What was their interaction with other people like? Those are the important things that kind of are missing from the record. So anytime you want to make a movie about someone like that, you really have to kind of do as much research as you can, but sort of take a leap of faith. And that's tough, because I think everyone in their head has a vision of what they think they sound like, and that kind of thing. So that was very challenging. And so there are also things that we don't know. So we know that they met in Jamestown, New York in 1897. We know that during the following year, she moved to New York City and they were married there in 1898. But we don't know how he proposed, where he proposed, when he proposed, or even if he gave her an engagement ring. So when you're making a movie that's based on the life, and I will be very clear, this is based on the life of Milton Hershey, it's not a documentary, you have to kind of create those moments and fill in the blanks. And so that was really something that we felt strongly about, to make sure that they were not doing it in a way that was gratuitous or over the top or something that people couldn't really envision. So we're very happy. I'm very happy with how it turned out. I think it's way better than I expected. I think the director did an incredible job. I really enjoyed being on the set. The people involved with the film were really wonderful to work with, and I think it was very telling that when they shot the very last scene, every single person on the crew and all the actors and all the producers went and stood right there where they were shooting it. And when it was over, it was like applause and everyone was excited. And one of the prop masters came over to me and said, I've been making movies for 30 years and this has never happened on a set that I've been in. Like, people weren't this excited, and happy at the end. So I thought that was really kind of a wonderful thing that happened. So it was great. And this scene is when Milton brings Kitty home to meet his mother, and it's quite good, I have to say. And then there's just some really interesting things about movie making that I did not realize when I got involved with this project. So one of them is that every person in the movie and every set has a color story. So they can do a lot of things in movies that sort of guide your thinking and make you feel something without you really knowing what's happening. So if you look at, Milton Hershey's clothing in the beginning of the movie, it's very dark and monochromatic. And then Kitty has a very specific color palette. And when she comes into his life, his wardrobe kind of brightens a bit. He'll have a colored vest or a pocket square or a tie. And so it sort of carries along the emotion that she brings into his life when they meet, and it's really, really interesting. And there are certain points in the movie where it's really clear how they do it. When he first finds Royer's candy shop, everything kind of changes, all the color and the lighting. So it's really, really fun. Another thing that was fascinating to me is these roads were all paved, and they had to go to all these locations and dump tons and tons of dirt on the street, and then go back when they were finished and take it all away. So the things that you have to think about, they had to reroute all the Amazon delivery trucks every day they were in towns like this. They had to do a lot. You can see there's electrical wires. They have to get rid of those with special effects. So it was really fascinating. And my favorite story is we were visiting one of the places where they were shooting, and I ran into a guy who was cutting all the street signs off and then reattaching them with new hardware, so that when they went back the following Monday to start shooting, they could just pop them off, and they knew they wouldn't be stuck and they wouldn't have a hard time getting rid of them. And then also when it was finished, they could just put them back really quickly. So it's just fascinating, everything that goes into it. And I was happy to see that when we went to the production office before shooting, we had sent them thousands of photos and blueprints and oral histories and pictures of artifacts and things like that. And they were all plastered around the office. So they really used the information that we gave them, which was really, really gratifying, because a lot of times people do research with you and you kind of never get to see the fruits of it, but we really did with this.
This is a real street?
Yes. I wasn't there that day. I think this one was in Pittsburgh, but I could be wrong. In the city. I will say every costume, with the exception of 4 or 5 custom-made pieces, was actually historical. Nothing was made to look old. It all was old. So when I was a background actor, so funny actor, I got to wave a little flag and clap. It's very exciting. But when I was there that day, there were over 160 background people that day, and so the wardrobe area was in the gym of a high school, and the entire gym was filled with racks of clothing, and it's all historical. And the movie covers early 1860s through 1918, so that's a very big change in fashion over that time. So they have to coordinate how many people are going to be in a scene from 1913 and make sure they have enough clothing to fit all of those people, and it's just incredible. I have never witnessed a more efficiently run organization or project. There can be guys who, they set up in the morning before I was ever there, and they're hanging around for, hours while they're shooting, and then the second they're done, everyone is working, no one's getting in anyone's way, but there are people and equipment absolutely everywhere. It's just fascinating how it works. I think every business should go visit a movie set sometime and see like how it all works together. It's really incredibly fun. Same with props, everything was historical. The only things they reproduced were artifacts from the museum and Milton Hershey School's collections, because letting them use the real thing wasn't really an option, because you never know what's gonna happen to it. So they did recreate some really, really good product packaging and lots of things like that, which was pretty exciting. Any questions so far?
When are they looking for the release of it?
November or December of 2026. And it will be PG. And I've seen the director's cut, which I loved, and it was missing a score, which has now been completed. It had no special effects. There's some voiceover things to fix. So I think it's going to be like a lot better. So I'm really quite pleased with how it turned out. I have to say, as historians, we were very skeptical going into this process and really concerned about what kind of feedback we'd be able to provide and what they would actually listen to. And it was just great. And I will say, there are moments where there's a story arc. So if you're introducing something out here, it may be confusing if you don't sort of talk about it a little bit here. So there are some times where there's a scene where something happened that maybe isn't 100% accurate, or they're off by a couple of years because it just works better for how the story's moving. You have a finite amount of time. You really have to select what, you know, he lived for 88 years. You can't do a whole movie for 88 years, it would be 4 hours long. So, you know, they had to kind of choose the time period that they wanted to cover and still hit all of the high points. You know, you have to get Kitty in there, you have to get the chocolate company in there, you definitely have to get the school in there. So I think it was a really good choice, even though in the beginning we were like, you're ending it in 1918, there's the whole building campaign, and there's, you know, all these things that happened. But I do think they cover all of the really important things that he did in his life. And I will say, when I say it's based on the life of and not everything's 100% accurate, all of the major milestones are. And we were very careful to make sure that that kind of thing was covered. Yes?
Do you have any idea where the costumes and the props come from? Are they in Atlanta or New York or Hollywood?
All over. A lot of the costumes were local. Pittsburgh, a lot of where we shot was near Pittsburgh, and they have a huge film industry, which I was not aware of. Almost every person on the crew was local. And there's a ton of costume houses. There's a lot of people who collect old clothing that will rent it for movies. So it was kind of that. A lot of the props they purchased from antique stores or rented from prop houses. But there's a lot going on in Pennsylvania for that kind of thing. And some of it did come from far away, but most of it was fairly local. Yes?
I'm originally from Uniontown, Pennsylvania, which is near Brownsville, where
Yeah.
I understand part of the movie was filmed.
Yes.
I was just wondering, why did they choose Brownsville as a place to film the movie, and what parts of the movie were filmed in Brownsville?
That is a good question, and I would have to check. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I was there for Brownsville. I do recall there was major flooding, and it was really rough. It was a rough day, so I was glad I wasn't there. But they actually shot in 14 different locations, so it was all over the place. And they selected those places because they had if it was outdoors, they had historic-looking buildings. Some of the places they needed to do things to the outside of buildings, like paint, put signs up and things. So it needed to be a location where they were allowed to do that. They also remove everything, but so you have to, there's a lot that goes into choosing a location. They were in Harmony for the one day, and they shot a lot of different scenes there because they have a huge, they have a big street, and every building on it is very historic. And from the time period that we were shooting, very little has changed in that town, so it was a great place. Plus it's small, so if you want to put dirt all over the streets and close down the middle of town for a week, you can do that. So it worked out really well, but Brownsville, I'll have to check.
I have to leave to go to choir, but
Yeah.
will there be a sequel to pick up from 1918? Did anyone ever suggest that?
I don't know, nothing is in the works as far as I know, but good question, yeah. I guess we'll have to see how this one does. Any other questions about the movie? Okay, I think that was my last. Oh, so the big thing the Hershey Story is doing is we were able to acquire a lot of the props that weren't rented. So we're going to be doing an exhibit to hopefully coincide with the opening of the film. so that we can kind of talk about how the movie was made and look at, showcase some of the important props. And you can see on the 10th anniversary of the town, Milton Hershey was presented with this loving cup that's currently housed at High Point Mansion. So they created, a very non-expensive version of that. We have a lot of product packaging. So this is an old chrysanthemum box. This is the one that they created to sort of stand in for it. This is hard to see what it is, but it's a hair comb that's shaped like a kitten. And it's very important throughout the movie. It's a device they use throughout the movie they keep coming back to. That is called a hero prop because it's related to a main character and she handles it a lot. So they actually made 3. There was a jeweler in Pittsburgh that made those, and we got 2 of them, and I think one was gifted to someone in the production. When you look on a desk, anytime there's any paper on a desk, it's actually really looks like paper from that. So when they're in the Caramel Company building, and there's paper strewn around, they all have Lancaster Caramel Company, mastheads on them and things. This is a doorway from a candy shop that they showcased when he was in New Orleans called Fat City Candies. And this is a cart that Milton Hershey was pushing when he was selling candy in Lancaster for the Lancaster Caramel Company. So, that's all I got for the movie, but feel free to ask a question if something comes to mind.
Did they film in Lancaster?
They did not.
Okay.
They did not. They did do a scene in Founders Hall, kind of at the end. They're really showcasing Milton Hershey School, which is great, and so that was a lot of fun. You'll see kind of what that is. Yes?
Were any students or graduates of the Milton Hershey School involved?
Yes, there were several alums who were background actors. I know of at least 4. And there was a scene they shot at Founders Hall with some current students. And they also got, I think it was two alumni who actually were handed their diplomas by Milton Hershey. They got them to the set one day and they got to meet the actor Finn Whitrock, who played Milton, and Alexandra Daddario, who played Kitty, and got to talk to some people on set, which was really great for them and the actors. I think they really appreciated kind of having that interaction. So that was really cool too. Yes.
How old is Founders Hall? I would not have thought it to be that old.
It's not. 1970? Yeah. 70.
Oh, this was filmed inside of Founders Hall?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is sort of a modern day kind
Gotcha.
of end
Gotcha.
of the movie, what's the school kind
Thank
of
you.
doing now.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So, all right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is Hershey Community Archives. So Hershey Community Archives was created in 1985. And it's the corporate repository for the Hershey Company, Hershey Entertainment Resorts Company, the Hershey Trust Company, and the M.S. Hershey Foundation. So, and also they collect records from community organizations. So they hold records, for instance, of Hershey Rotary Club. So they do a lot of work for the Hershey Company. Their legal department is a huge customer, contacting them often about trademark questions and things like that. They hold a lot of original trademarks of the Hershey Company. And so then they also do a lot of work with research for local researchers. We just had a book signing for a professor from Penn State Harrisburg who wrote a book about the transformation of Hershey Park, 2 words, to Hershey Park, 1 word, a theme park, with an admission price and all of that. So they worked extensively with Dr. Haddad on that book. So that's kind of all the things they do. And then the Department of School History at Milton Hershey School collects records related to the school, yearbooks, and all kinds of things. And so we are actually moving into the lower level of the community building. Hopefully early 2027 it will be open. They're going to be located together and we'll be sharing storage space, but we'll still be separate entities. The goal is that when you go to search the collection online, you can search one place and it will cull both of the collections and provide results for both. So it'll be really nice that you can go to one place and kind of get anything that you need for Hershey history. It's a great use of shared space. They're currently located in Kinderhouse, and our archive is located at the Hershey Story. Both places are kind of busting at the seams. The archives was never supposed to be located in the Hershey Story, but after 2008, they were paying rent the foundation could not afford, and so we made the decision to kind of combine both organizations into our current building. And it's been 15 years, and now we are out of space. So they are going to be moving over the course of the next year into this. It's 27,000 square feet. So if you're looking at the community building, the fountains in front of you, there'll be the wing that kind of sticks out on the west end of the building, and then part of the hallway across the middle will be where they're located. There's great storage space with compact shelving and all kinds of things. And also the school has a three-dimensional collection that will be moving as well. So they have archives, records, photographs, papers, digital things that'll be moving, and as well as their three-dimensional collection. The way the museum and archives are different for us is the Hershey Story Museum collects three-dimensional artifacts. The archives is mainly paper-based photos and digital. So all of that will be going over there. We'll gain a lot more storage space, which our curator is thrilled about. And they'll have really great storage space and all new kind of things, which our archives is very excited about. So the name will probably be Hershey Legacy Archives, is sort of the overarching name. And it'll be full of exhibits and a great cinema. So this is a photo of a wall. So when you walk in, you'll be coming this direction. It's kind of a welcome desk, and then there's 4 different, we're calling them bays, there's columns of the little space in between, that will have exhibits related to recreation in Hershey, military history in Hershey, learning by doing, which will cover learning trades at Milton Hershey School and their CTE program, and home life for students and sort of school life outside of academics at Milton Hershey School. So that's going to showcase a lot of things from our collections. And then there's also going to be, and this is a terrible photo, I apologize, it's the only one I can get. There's also going to be a cinema. We're calling it a cinema because there's already 2 theaters in that building, and it's very confusing to call it a theater. But there'll be a very large projection screen when you walk in. And then to the left, there will be this touch screen that guests can use to select a playlist of videos relating to living in Hershey, education in Hershey, working, and of course it's escaping me, but there's 4. So you'll be able to choose a playlist, and we have films dating back to the teens that people have never really seen before. So we're very excited because neither one of us really have a place to kind of show this sort of thing, and so this is going to be a really new venture for guests to see. We're probably going to be open Monday through Friday, like 10 to 3, so every day people can just walk in and kind of do a little bit of research. You can also do research by appointment on other days. We've had people come in on weekends and things like that if they want to do a deep dive. But it's a really nice opportunity to see some of what the school archive has, which I think a lot of people outside of the school maybe haven't seen before, and experience some film and videos as well. Any questions about that? Yes.
Sorry to keep asking all the questions.
Oh, that's okay.
Has any thought been given to having a venue, or do you have a venue where you could actually show the film that's to be premiered next year in the archives, or for people coming to Hershey? It would be a shame not to make that available to people.
Yeah,
who are interested in Hershey.
I don't know how all of that kind of works with the business end of things. I'm sure eventually we would be able to. I don't know how long after it's released, They are looking at a national theatrical release and then probably streaming after that. And we're hoping, people always ask me, is the premiere going to be at Hershey Theater? I doubt, because it's a national release, I doubt there will be the premiere will be in Hershey. I do believe we'll definitely have screenings of it, and we're certainly hoping that the theater is a part of that because Hershey built the theater, so that would be pretty cool. So we're kind of working all that out now. Until they get a distributor and sign a final deal, though, it's hard to really say what any of that will be. All right. We have just broken ground on the new Rose Garden Pavilion for Hershey Gardens, which is exciting. We opened the conservatory in 2016, and we were very nervous. It's an expensive building, and we had never had an indoor space at the gardens, and we really wanted to right-size it and not overbuild and have space that wasn't getting used. So what we did was build the building and then put a tent pad next to it. And it turns out we should have just built another room when we opened the building in 2016. The tent pack gets used a lot, but it's only there for 8 or 9 months out of the year. So in the winter, there's nothing. We can't have, outdoor things. When it's windy, the flaps are blowing around. When it's cold, you have to bring in heaters. It's very expensive to put up, take down, clean, store, and replace panels, every couple of years. So we really decided that investing in a year-round exhibit space would be incredibly beneficial to the garden. So this is it. If you're looking, this is kind of the entrance that's there now that goes right out to Swan Lake. So this will be on the east end of the building. This is the current educational horticultural wing, and if you've ever been in there, if you walk through that wing, there were restrooms behind it. That's this. So they tore down where the restrooms are. They're building a vestibule, and then this building, this sort of room here with a beautiful terrace and a loading dock with a raised dock, which we're very excited about, because currently caterers have to bring tables and chairs into the basement, take them up in the elevator, which is really disruptive to our guests if they're setting up for a party during our open hours. It's easy to run tables into walls and make dings, so we're really happy that now they can just bring them straight in the room and take them back out. So that'll be really great. We will have this beautiful terrace, and that means we can still have music in the gardens, because one of the first questions I get from people when they find out the tent's going away is, are you still having music in the gardens? And yes, we are. And then another really important thing we're doing is kind of behind the scenes, where school buses drop off students, it's a little hard for them to maneuver in the background there. So we're putting in a turnaround outside of the main gate so that buses can drop kids off and then turn around without having to do a 3-point turn and running into trees, and possibly employees driving golf carts around. So that'll be much, much safer and just a lot more efficient for kids. So we're really excited about that as well. It's 4,400 square feet, and that includes the room and the terrace. And there's going to be a lot of huge windows and glass doors, so even though you're not kind of outside the way you were in the tent, you'll still have beautiful views of Hershey and then the hotel and the rest of the gardens on the other side. So we're super excited about that. And I talked about the loading dock and the buses. It also includes, if you go back, these windows here, there's 10 transoms, and they're, I think, over 6 feet wide. Those are being custom designed and made for us by Cumberland Glass in, I think, New Cumberland. And they do work with churches all over the world. There's not many companies that work in stained glass anymore, so thankfully, one of them that does is right in our backyard. So this is a prototype of one of the windows to see how we kind of like the design. And it's hard to see in this photo, but the reds in the rows are all kind of slightly different shades, and there's different textures, so it's really quite beautiful in person. So we're excited about those. And for the low, low price of $50,000, you can have your name put on one. So there's still 2 left, if anyone's interested. Just let me know.
Is the rose depicted as the Hershey rose?
Not specifically, just a red rose. What else was I going to say? Oh, and there's also going to be a really cool light installation in the center. There's some raised sections of the ceiling, and so we have these custom-made kind of rose-shaped lights that will be in there too. So we do a lot of weddings in this space, so it'll be really, really pretty. It's a little bit more upscale than the educational horticultural wing we currently have, but we're super excited. If anyone's been to the Orchid Show, you know how desperate we are for more space, because you really can't walk in there. And it's in January, so nobody's going outside to see the rest of the garden. So things like that will make this really helpful for us, especially in the wintertime. We used to close for 3 months every year, and now we can be open all year long, and it's really helped, our bottom line. It's expanded our educational programming, so this is all really exciting. And I am happy to say it should be done by summer of next year, so stay tuned. And then Hershey Theater, there is a lot going on there. So we've been doing a huge renovation throughout this entire year. I will say there was a very big renovation of the sort of historical elements of the building 15, 20 years ago. So this renovation is not really touching any of that. I know a lot of people have been concerned when I've talked to them that it's gonna look different, and it really isn't. Everything that's being fixed now is kind of back of house things that will make your visit to the theater much, much better. So they got all new seats, all new carpeting, but it's the same carpeting and it's the same color seats, so that will all look the same. Every wire, light switch, outlet, and light bulb is being replaced. It was original wiring from the early 1930s, so that should make you feel a lot safer. And they're changing all of the bulbs to LEDs. As you can imagine, there are some really hard to get to lights in the theater, and the guy that has to change them has to do some crazy things to get to them. So we would love for him to be able to do that as little as possible. So those are all getting changed, plus it's just so much more energy efficient. They're putting in a covered loading dock, which we've never had, so loading shows in and out is gonna be so much better and easier, especially in bad weather. And it has an elevator that will go to the lower level, which will be helpful for us bringing in large artifacts for the archives, and also the stage level. So that's a huge improvement over what they've had. There will now be railings in the balcony, which we have never had, walking down the steps, feeling really good about that. And then they're refurbishing all of the dressing rooms. So there's 5 floors of dressing rooms that are kind of all being gutted and redone because they were pretty sad looking. The orchestra pit's being refurbished, and they're putting additional safety lights in the aisles for people walking when it's dark. And most importantly, the HVAC system is going to be redone for the entire building because that also was the same since the early 1930s, and they didn't really have real air conditioning. I don't understand how it was supposed to work, but if you've been in a show when it's been too hot, that will hopefully not be an issue. We used to have to bring in humongous portable air conditioners certain times of the year to kind of help deal with environmental issues. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're reopening March 5th. Neil deGrasse Tyson is coming. We've already announced the Broadway show. They've already have about 24 shows booked for the year. About half of them have been announced, so there's lots more to come. Oh, and I do want to mention, has anyone been to Beyond the Footlights? It's a fundraiser for the Hershey Theater Apollo Awards. Well, if you want to get into the theater before it opens for Neil deGrasse Tyson, at the end of February, we'll be holding a special Beyond the Footlights event, which will be kind of a behind-the-scenes tour, which is very cool. If you've never done one of our spotlight tours, it's a really interesting, kind of fun thing to do. So you'll be able to get tickets in the next couple of weeks. There'll be food and drink, and I think they'll have a couple performances by kids from the Apollo Awards. The reason we can't do the normal format, which is basically a whole night of them sort of performing, is because it's in February, not January, and they will all be rehearsing for musicals at their high schools and colleges, so we couldn't really get them, but we couldn't get into the space before then. So this should be really fun, so if that's something that interests you, you should keep an eye out on hersheytheater.org.com. I think they both work. Any questions about that?
Can you tell us anything about the organ?
I really can't. I mean, I can tell you that when it was purchased by Milton Hershey originally, it was a new design that never worked well, and I think they only made a couple of them because it was so hard to keep it in good running order. To replace the original parts that aren't working with electronics, which is what every organ company says is about $2.5 million. So that is unlikely. There are lots of different things under discussion for where it will end up, and since I'm not personally in those discussions, because the theater is one arm of the foundation that I'm not terribly involved with, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't know.
We took a group from the church here and had our own tour over there maybe 5 years ago. I remember we had a discussion over the organ.
Yep,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. In order for organs to work well, they have to be played a lot.
Yeah,
and there's not that many people who can play an organ like that. We don't have, because of the way shows work, it's very hard for us because if there's a show in the theater, they basically own the theater and no one's allowed in it, you know, for the time period they're there. So we can't just have people in there playing the organ every week because it's just not, it's not, you know, possible with the contract. So it's a sticky question.
Well, our music director at the time got to play the organ,
Yeah.
and it sounded good.
Yeah, I think People who play it complain about it a lot, about how it's difficult to play. A lot of the bellows don't work correctly, and the
stops if you
levers,
don't
yeah.
use them, yeah.
So I think it sounds okay to us, but people who know what they're doing kind of understand it's not the greatest.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
So on March 5th, will the main parking lot be available, or will that not be available until the main building is?
No, as far as I know, it will be available. And they are, I should have mentioned, they are doing a lot of work in the parking lot, because I think we all know it ain't great. So, so they are doing some work on that as well.
Will it be free?
Parking?
Will it, yeah.
Yes, oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Yep. And I think that's all I got. Does anybody have any other questions about anything?
Yeah, go back to that first picture that you had of the movie. There's a question that just bothers me.
Yes.
No, not the second picture.
That?
I guess it's the third. There, that one.
Yes.
Is that a red is that a step?
Yes.
Step ladder?
Yeah. There's one there,
That
and
just
there's some
seemed
there.
out for the period.
Well, yeah, it was because they were standing on it probably to shoot, but it won't be in the picture.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, because I caught that and you said period, and I'm going, that can't be right. Something's wrong there.
Correct. You are correct. That will not be there.
Good observation.
It's funny too, because when they're shooting, there was a mailbox that they didn't think would be in a shot, then was, and then of course they have to scramble to find a barrel to stick on top of it or cover it up. So there's lots of little details you gotta pay attention
Well,
to.
that's a fiberglass, I'm guessing a fiberglass, and it just.
But you
fiberglass
know,
from 18.
Jennifer, Tessa, and Valerie would never have let that fly.
Yeah, oh, I recognize it.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe I came in 5 minutes late. Was there a scene here at the church?
No.
No
There
scene?
was not a scene filmed here on Election Day for that movie?
No. The movie was
Another-
finished filming in the end of June or July.
On election day, there was a film crew that used
Oh.
our fellowship hall. We rented the fellowship hall for a day to them. They were shooting a commercial for the Hershey Company. Completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, this finished
We turned
in
on.
end of June. Yeah, May and June.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes.
There were some, when I did the spotlight tour, there are some historical, very or secretive things about, from World War II, I believe, about the lift, something in the stage. Do you recall any of this? There's some very, I didn't take that probably a few years ago, but I remember that there was a secret about the lift in
Hydraulic system.
the hydraulic system.
Mhm.
You don't,
I
that
don't-
doesn't
I
ring a
don't
bell?
know.
It's secret.
Secret even from
Even
me.
Amy doesn't know.
Well, they said it was one of a kind, you know.
Oh.
Yeah,
It could be.
As the star system in the ceiling, is
Mhm.
that still going to be working? And that was one of a kind.
Yes, that'll still
The
be.
clouds, sorry, it was clouds.
Yep. Yeah, and I should mention, there are so many rooms in that theater, like under the stage and under the seats and everywhere. And so before they started construction on the theater part of the building, the museum and archives really spent days sort of taking everything out of, it's been squirreled away in these little rooms and closets and spaces that they don't use but didn't want to get rid of, and the old ticket boxes that were always in the lobby because they don't really take tickets anymore. So those things that won't be there when it reopens are at the museum. So we did salvage a lot of stuff from the theater so that it wouldn't get damaged, during construction. So we took parts of the building, like old signs. We have some signs from when WITF was in there, that say applause and things like that. So we got a lot of really fun stuff. Yes.
So will the community archives, so the Hershey Legacy Archives,
Mhm.
be a stop on like a museum of its own? Will people be invited and encouraged to come to the community archives to see the displays there?
Yes.
Just as they are at the museum?
Yes, it's a much smaller scale, but there are some fun things to see. And I think we're really The nice thing about it is people haven't been able to go in that building, and this is a space that will be open, you know, to the public, and you'll be able to, you have to walk through the building to get there. So I think when we first open, we're gonna be very, very busy because everyone's gonna kind of want to see what's up. But yes, people will be invited to
And
go.
it'll be free.
Yes.
You wouldn't need an admission to the museum to get.
Nope. Nope, it's free. And the archives now are free. You can go in and do research and not have to pay, you know, for anything, unless you want to use it in a publication.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.